Hey, this is Ross Gibbons of gotConsentpodcast. I'm at Mark's house today going to answer some interview questions. He's directly across from me, even though I'm looking right into my camera half the time. So go ahead, Mark, and start off.
Okay. This is, as you all know, this is an exclusive interview with one of my co-hosts for the God Consent podcast show,
Yeah.
and I want to answer some very basic
Questions
questions
I'm
right
going to
now.
answer because I'm principally the free market guy on the show, absolute free markets. And he has a couple questions there, and I can't say necessarily I was unhappy with the questions because I had to think, I had to stop and look at it again. It's much easier for us to simply talk back and forth like this.
Oh, and I agree with that assessment. So let us begin. Um, in American history, during the 1930s, the city of Chicago was not able to pay its police officers, and with Al Capone being able to have the money available from alcohol prohibition sales under his criminal empire, he was able to buy off the police. And in a free market setting, what would be a guarantee that they would? Okay,
Well, we guarantee that the police will be bought off.
right,
Well, go ahead and answer to kind of look into what your question was in the first place. Al Capone was able to buy off police officers because he was able to accrue a great amount of capital. He was able to do that because what he was selling mostly was illegal, and he did so on the black market, right?
mm-hmm.
And it goes into the fact that the government was what made it these alcohol and other things probably illegal in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the totally free market where things couldn't be arbitrarily banned in the first place, Al Capone's couldn't accrue the kind of money they did via the black market because the black market wouldn't exist.
Okay.
Now I can't tell you necessarily that there wouldn't be police officers or there wouldn't be in a private system, right, who couldn't be bought off. That's giving way too much into it, right? What I
Right.
will tell you is that they would be heavily disincentivized to do so because once that kind of thing comes out, you're not going to be trusted for anything. The second you're found to be a liar in a private system, you're gonna have to be much more. It's gonna be much harder to prove that you're not a liar anymore. So, quite frankly, in this case of keeping cops from private cops, that is right,
Mm-hmm.
from being bribed to doing bad things. Well, effectively, the fact that if you're not being paid enough, you can quit and go someplace where people will pay you more. The fact that you could incentivize other ways, and the fact that once found out to be a crook, essentially, you're not going to be as well trusted as you were beforehand. These are some of these incentives that will make it a less likely effect in a free market system.
Okay. Um, in Russia, a lot of the older generation of Russian citizens wanted to
They
go.
pined for socialism's return, right?
They pined for socialism's return because they felt they had their needs met more than under capitalism under the
Well,
current Russian
a lot of
state.
the older generation in that case have grown up with that system in the first place, so they're not going to. So of course they're going to want that system back. It's nowadays the people back nowadays here in the United States, people remember the good old days back before all this great socialist in right kind of thing, right? And they kind of forget the fact that the good old days are not good. They weren't good, and this is true here. It's as true was in Russia. The needs being met in some cases, depending on what those needs were, mind you, because this is one of those things that I had a problem with what he had asked me with because I'd always heard that basically you had problems with being with their choices, but there is the possibility that some things just weren't as as well available from the public to be commodities worth pursuing, right,
Mm-hmm.
in certain areas. And that's unfortunate, but that's not a problem that would be another problem necessarily be here. And that doesn't mean necessarily that the socialist system that they're pining for was anything superior to the free market system, as you can pay anyone can give you what you want,
Mm-hmm.
as long as you're willing to pay the price they're willing to take.
Okay.
Now, and this, of course, isn't overlooks the fact that in some cases they may give away stuff for free because it bolsters their reputation and gives people an incentive to go and buy from them in the first place. This does happen nowadays, and it would be happening probably a lot more often in the free market system. The Soviet days is interesting. We already have 5 minutes into this 10-minute thing on this video, so we'll have to start over and some of the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's no problem. Anyways, the now, crap, that just threw me off a little bit there. Without knowing each and every case there, I couldn't tell you whether or not they were necessarily better or worse off. Now, the added effect to this is that in a truly free market system, you could set up a system. You could set up in a kind of socialist system as well if you felt that it was best for your general area.
Okay.
Because that's the way things would be. Honestly, that's how we go.
Okay. One question I have that I was trying to develop into the transcript was the merger of corporate and state powers.
Okay.
And if someone were to...
Go ahead.
Okay. So, Gerald Celente defined the merger of corporate and state powers as fascism.
All right.
Some history teachers have argued that unrestrained capitalism will lead into fascism. Is fascism, in your opinion, a form of socialism, and how would that work?
Well, fascism is a form of socialism, and how it works is quite frankly something I'm not anywhere around. Fascism tends, like most systems that in ways tend to work really well right off the bat, but it's a long-term effect that tend towards deterioration. It's kind of the boom-bust effect to a certain extent. Now, I'm going to have to sit there and try to remember what the question was again, but
Okay.
now you said something about the effect of some critics of capitalism, and I should point out the fact that I'm not arguing for capitalism, as that's a word that's been so heavily misguided. Well, first of all, why would you call yourself a capitalist when Karl Marx was the guy who coined the term in the first place, and he uses it in a derogatory term towards you? Now, I call myself a free marketeer, and a lot of people who used to call themselves capitalists now they're calling that too, and they're used to trying to accumulate the both the same thing. That's not really the truth, honestly.
Okay.
And it's the same thing with, say, Benjamin Tucker, a early American anarchist, well, late 1800s, early 1900s anarchist, who was a newspaper editor and actually was one of the most well-known American anarchists at the time, basically. Not really well-known in a lot of circles, apparently, as I'm finding out, and that's not to my pleasure, honestly. He argued that the system that he was proposing was socialism, and he defined it as being different from the Marxian socialism, the authoritarian socialism, by being a libertarian socialism. In a way, basically, and the way he defined it, more or less goes along the same way I define the free market. Anyone was free to go out their way to find what they can best serve their community as, and make that money or whatever else off of it. The only real problem with that is that he, like a lot of people, has kind of focus a lot on the more collective things. There was the fact that he didn't like money as a concept, which unfortunately is just something. Money's a commodity. It's a commodity of trade. It makes trade easier.
Okay.
Anyways, we're down to about half a minute, so I'm going to stop and have you restate the question next and do it again, okay?
Okay.